Hey guys, it is Batman, and I got Mr. Ken Rock today featuring in this reaction with me as of now. It's been a bit since we've done a duo reaction together, but we're going to be getting one going. And this video topic is Sasori vs. Deidara is not close. Now, I'm just going to give a spoiler alert. I know Jay very well and closely, so he's in favor for Sasori. He thinks Sasori would beat the fuck out of Deidara. I just had a previous discussion with Ken. He's also in agreement with that Sasori would beat Deidara as well. And typically that is normally known as like the winning stance anyways. Like a lot of people would normally go with Sasori. But what's been really weird lately is just there's been a lot of disrespect to Sasori for many reasons. And then a lot of people just for some reason have been really scaling Deidara very high to where they think he's actually over Sasori and so on and so forth. So it's technically become a contentious topic with some new scaling that has been up and around, or from like the new content creators that have been making videos and stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, as me and Ken said before, if you look at all the feats, the statements, especially the statements, it's strongly in favor for Sasori. So, but before we get into the video and go any further, do you have anything to say as well, Ken, or like any initial thoughts on this topic?
Like you said, like I know Jay's probably gonna go with Sasori, but like the only reason why I can say that so confidently is like Deidara literally just flat out says Sasori's stronger than him.
Yeah, no facts. Yeah,
and I mean usually you can take these things with a great assault, but you gotta remember Deidara's the guy who's so prideful that he'd rather die than admit inferiority to Sasuke.
No, facts. Like, bro, we've seen that consistency-wise as well. Like, bro, the guy is so arrogant and prideful. Like, he thought he could beat Orochimaru when he know that was blatantly just not. You know what I mean? Like he know that for one, it wouldn't be easy, and two, he would more than likely not, because technically, if you count the anime and the games, he's had experience fighting Orochimaru, and Orochimaru wasn't even breaking a sweat. Better yet, Deidara was just being used as a support character, and the one that was actually engaging with Orochimaru was Sasori. So, like, there's those interactions, if you count that or consider it canon. And then, most importantly, Itachi. He's another example. Like, fucking, he couldn't do shit. Like, he got no diff by Itachi, yet he, like, you know, he knows all that. You know what I mean? But, like, and he won't fuck with Itachi, you know, and so on and so forth. Like, so, like, to be fair, he did create, like, that robotic eye to deal with Itachi's genjutsu, but when you analyze the feats and everything, it doesn't do fucking shit. He would literally still get shitted on by Hitachi because Sasuke's genjutsu was still beating him. What's that?
Yeah, the eye is a failure.
Yeah, the eye is a fucking failure. So again, it goes along with him being so arrogant and prideful. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any logical sense. And like, Sasori is the only time, it's out of character, remind you, the only time where he's actually like being humble. You know what I mean? Like, and literally being serious, like, hey, like, yeah, I'm strong, but Sasori is more troublesome. You might want to go help them because, you know, just saying, like, they're more likely going to die in that fight. So, like, again, like, you know, when you analyze everything as a whole, like, Deidara, he's a very confident, arrogant fucking person. And even when he might be over his head or it will be a very hard fight, he still would just think, oh yeah, I can do it. Like, bro, like when the Akatsuki gave the orders to go deal with Orochimaru, and so on and so forth, like, Deidara was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill Orochimaru, blah blah, all this bullshit, like saying a bunch of nonsense, and then saying, oh yeah, let's see if we can find Sasuke as well, and so this way I can get like some payback to Itachi, and like, you know, because he pissed me off, blah blah, yada yada. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, again, like, that's just how Deidara always has been, always, every fucking time.
It's just the same guy who was told to go capture the One-Tails, the Kazekage, and went in underprepared.
Yeah, literally. Like, he underestimated Gaara, too. Like, and Sasori told him that, too. He was like, hey, like, you know, he said a bunch of shit, and he's like, you know, just letting you know, don't be stupid. And then he went, and what do you know? He loses an arm. And then Sasori was like, I told you, you know, like, so, again, that's what you're working with. But, you know, and again, what people normally try to do in defense for Deidara is they'll be like, oh, well, Deidara's just lying because he wants to get Kakashi away from Naruto so he can capture him easier. And it's like, sure, that could be the case, but two things can be true. You know what I mean? Like, one, the Sasori thing is still true, right? And two, yeah, of course, that would make it technically easier for him to get Naruto, but it doesn't mean that's only the case. That's the problem. Unless you could substantiate and prove that that would be the only reason why he's saying that, you know, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, it just really, in theory, not even in theory, really with just what you have is both can just be true, and that's it, you know? So, but overall, we're going to get into the video. We're going to see how Jay shows it, analyzes it, and see what we got. Shout out to Jay the Great as well. Make sure to check him out. Same thing for Ken Rock. Check out his YouTube and stuff. They both have plenty of content. Let's get into it. Got a cool intro. I like it. Okay, he got the old games. Damn. Shit like a fucking Bijou bomb in the games. Yeah, one thing I really liked of what he did in his other videos with scaling is like he had like for whenever he did a versus battle, he had like a really cool anime scene moment of hyping up the character, and then he did the same for the other one too. I thought those intros, or at least that for an intro for the video was actually really cool. But this one's really cool too. It's like really creative and stuff. So you can tell there's a lot of editing into that.
Two of some of the most misunderstood and misrepresented characters power scaling wise in the Naruto fandom are Deidara and Sasori, who also happen to be a duo within the infamous Akatsuki organization. As a result for many, when discussing and debating how a battle between these two would go, it seems the answer isn't quite clear, and or from my observation, usually—
Oh, that's another thing, Ken. Doesn't he call him senpai, which means master? Or like he held Sasori in like a high regard?
It doesn't mean master, it means teacher.
Okay, so
or it also could mean elder, I think, as well.
Yeah, no, you're right.
No, it's just teacher.
Yeah, no, I looked it up. It's someone who's older or more senior to you, such as an upperclassman or mentor. So yeah, you're right. So yeah, anyway, so technically, if you kind of take that into consideration, that kind of goes more along in defense for Sasori of why he would be more than likely above 2. You know, that's typically how it goes or is shown in Naruto. But yeah, so.
It does not lead to the most accurate conclusion, due mostly to common misconceptions of these characters. So in today's video, we will be pitting up these two characters against each other and discussing that matchup to expose the honest truth on how this battle would go.
Getting 8 ads every 20 minutes is actually diabolical.
Personally, I think it's real easy to know which member of the Akatsuki beats what member of the Akatsuki.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward for the most part. I think the only time things get like at least any or remote amount of contentious value is really when you're talking about like the top 3, like Pain, Obito, and Itachi. Now, if you like hyperanalyze or whatever, even that can technically be straightforward in a sense, but it's at least more understandable, like of how it could become contentious, especially if you're either doing devil's advocate or how you're viewing it. But you know, so
actually works on Twitch, aka.
And who would most likely win? Starting off with Deidara and sort of getting into.
Honestly, the only reason why like the Akatsuki even becomes contentious either way too, Ken, for like anyone in it or rankings, whatever, is because people just like always want to like have like weird new ideas or takes or sophist tactics, you know, or they try to like rep a new idea. You know what I mean? That just doesn't make sense, you know. And it's a lot of like misinformation or misconceptions. What's that?
Like Pain being the weakest member somehow?
Yeah, no, exactly. You know what I mean? Or Sasori being a fucking soccer victim and blah, blah, or yada, yada. Like, there's just a lot of weird takes that people would just be doing out of nowhere. And I get it. You know, they're doing it for shock value to try to grow their YouTube, you know, channel in a very fast way, blah, blah, yada, yada. But it kind of gets to a point where it's like, dude, like, no. You know what I mean? Like, like, especially when they're sitting there trying to say, like, oh, this is absolutely the case, too. You know what I mean? Like, that's where there's even more of a problem. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, maybe this could be the case, or if you want to advocate for the, you know what I mean? If you're going along that argumentation. But to say, oh, no, this is the fucking case, like, yeah, no. You know? So.
Deidara is shown out battling Gaara when infiltrating the Sand Village to capture Gaara for the Akatsuki to be able to extract the One Tail from him. In this battle, Deidara is shown evading Gaara's sand, where he then gets caught by specifically his faster special gourd sand, resulting in his arm being crushed, although Deidara takes advantage of the physical contact with the sand by infusing it with miniature clay bombs. Deidara ends the fairly competitive battle by creating a diversion, dropping a C3 clay bomb onto the sand village, knowing Gar would defend it, using his infamous...
Yeah, it was a pretty straightforward fight, really, you know what I mean? Like, they both technically had handicaps to some regard, but either way, like, it was pretty quick, you know what I mean? One thing I will say, though, Deidara would have got fucked up if he was not in that bird, though. Because the fact that he needed that bird to even remotely have any chance dodging all Gar's attacks, he would have been fucked. Because his body speed is completely different than the bird speed. The bird is way fucking faster. So, it was
So, like, Gar wasn't even going... Like, Gar was, Deidara was just limited on, how many attacks he could do. But, Gar was, limited to, his weaker attacks. Because he couldn't, use, Shigaku.
Yeah.
Imagine how much quicker that fight would have been if he had. And Gar won that fight.
Oh yeah, no.
The only
I do agree.
After it was he had to protect the village.
No, I do agree. I do think Gar would win. If they were just in a random terrain, right? You know what I mean? Especially with Deidara without prep too. Because mind you, I know there's prep time Deidara, then you have non. But especially if it's no prep, he's absolutely the fact that he was struggling with just the base attacks of Gara, or then some Shikaku hand attacks. Imagine him transforming, you know what I mean, or whatever, or doing some crazy fucking, ninjutsu sand move or whatever, because that's the thing too. He doesn't even have to be in a sand environment. He could literally use the dirt or the soil under the ground and just turn that to infinite sand, and then he's still good. You know what I mean? So if he did some massive scale attack, bro, Deidara would have got clapped up really fucking quick, but the problem is he's fighting in the village, and we know how that goes. It's shown in Boruto, it's shown in Naruto, it's shown consistently throughout the narrative that when you're in a village and you're trying to fight somebody, you're severely handicapped because you have to worry about protecting people and restrain your power to not kill people around you or hurt them. So, yeah. And Naruto, that's one of the reasons why Naruto struggled a lot more against Jigen, against Ishiki, so on and so, whatever you name it, because literally, he couldn't just go all out. You know what I mean? And then when he gets to the areas where he needs to go, then he's saying verbatim, oh, finally, now I can go all out, now I don't have to work with people, whatever, blah, blah, yada, 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 right? And then it's actually more competitive, So, and the same thing when we see fucking Delta, too. So, it's always blatantly been shown. Boruto, Naruto, Shippuden, it's always been a thing. But, yeah.
Sand defense, which created the opportunity for...
Now, the only handicap Deidara had was that he couldn't kill Gar. He could only incapacitate him. But either way, that doesn't really help him that much because he could still use his full speed, you know what I mean, everything, whatever, and the only difference is just not killing and just knocking him out, right? So really, it's it's whatever.
Well, he wasn't able to hit him really anyway.
Yeah, no, he had to get injured to hit him. He had to lose a fucking arm to get a hit. So,
need the clay bombs.
Which I'm gonna be honest, I don't understand why. I don't know. I have to go back and look at it, but the fact that he only crushed his arm and tore that off instead of putting the sand all around his fucking body, I don't remember if Gar was trying to take him hostage for intel on the Akatsuki or if he was going for the kill. I really don't remember, but. Either way,
he was always going for the kill. Deidara was just moving too quickly for him to get his whole body at that point in time.
Oh, okay. Because I was always wondering why he didn't do the whole body. Because that's what he always does in character,
Used into Gara's special Lord Sand, which resulted in Gara's defeat. Now, with this battle, it is important to note that Deidara was not going all out due to having to bring back Gara alive, meaning he was most likely holding back to some arbitrary extent. While Gara was similarly handicapped, with him having to be mindful of the Sand Village during
I don't
battle,
agree with that.
Not wanting them to be collateral damage.
What's up?
I don't think Deidara was holding back that much. The only move I could think that he was holding back on was C0.
Okay.
And C4. Those are the only moves I know he probably didn't use. But C0 is just an instant tie move.
Yeah.
And C4 would have been useless against Gara because he could just, surround himself with sand.
Yeah, no, exactly. What's it called? Yeah, we know blatantly he's not trying to kill Gar. That's fine. You know what I mean? So, and like Jay said, whatever arbitrary amount, whatever, blah, blah. But as for, when it comes to just knocking out Gar or just incapacitating him in any way, he can still go all out in that regard. You know what I mean? It's kind of similar when you have Obito and Conan. Sure, he can't kill Conan, but he could still use his full speed, you know what I mean? Any jutsus, whatever, and just immediately subdue her, right? So... again, there's that, like, because you can't kill somebody doesn't mean you can't just still beat the fuck out of them. You know what I mean? Like, people always confuse those things, So meaning, therefore, like, if you are fighting somebody and you're still struggling, or it's competitive, or that person is slightly more superior to you, or maybe even blatantly, whatever, like, that would still technically, like, scale is what I'm getting at. Because, again, yeah, they can't kill, but they can still knock them out, whatever. Like a really good example, Naruto versus Sasuke in the final valley, and the first time they fought. Naruto wasn't going to kill Sasuke. Sasuke was trying to kill him the whole time. But Naruto could easily just knock him out or break his bones. He literally says it multiple times, that's what I'm going to do. And then when he had the opportunity to do it, he still didn't do it because he was being a fucking idiot. But regardless, he could, when he pinned him on that wall and finally beat him with just a QB amp, he could have ended the fight right there and then and knocked him out or broke his bones. And that would have been it. There would have been no more fight. There would have been no fucking 3 Tomo. There would have been a CM2, no nothing, But yet, that's what happened. So again, like, it's very, very, very possible, meaning it doesn't change anything.
In any way, indicating that he was unable to fight at his best as well. These observations allow us to conclude that both were handicapped, which leads me to also conclude that Gaara and Deidara were relative to some arbitrary extent, with the fairly competitive nature of this battle, with again both combatants being handicapped. The next battle we get a good display of Deidara's physical abilities is him versus Heavy Sasuke. In this battle we both observe and are indicated by Deidara himself that base Heavy Sasuke has superior speed, resulting in Deidara having to put himself in a more ideal battle position, with him having clayed landmines under Sasuke with the help of Tobi, and he himself being airborne via his clay bird, where he was able to launch several aerial clay bomb missiles essentially. This resulted in a very tightly contested battle that resulted in Sasuke getting the narrow victory, mostly in part due to his Sharingan's visual prowess and his lightning-based chakra nature, which allowed him to defuse the earth-based nature clay bombs of Deidara. Also note that this battle in which Deidara participates in gives us a better...
I'll say Deidara's best feat during that fight was when he dodged the CM2 Chidori attack in mid-air, because they're both suffering the same physics or whatever in the air, whatever, blah, blah. Technically, Sasuke had more of the advantage because Deidara was falling... like gravity's against him while gravity's aiding Sasuke because he's going straight at him, so he has like all that momentum going. It's kind of similar to like when you had Sasuke jump off the waterfall and he goes to do a Chidori against Naruto's Rising Gun when they fight in the final valley in the Six Path shit, and Naruto's jumping, you know what I mean? It's kind of what you're getting at. So like that was like probably like the main thing you could really argue for, at least his physical body stats. That's all I'm saying. I do agree with Sasuke being superior, whatever. Like Deidara was, you could say he's relative, whatever, blah. But he was able to react and respond to him twice. So there's that too. And then he does it in air against the CM2. Now, if it was CM2 Sasuke moving on the ground, I don't know about all that. I don't know if he would be able to deal with that. You know what I mean? But what's it called? But again, you have all that. So like it's still impressive with the in-air thing with CM2 because they both are suffering the same variables, basically. The only difference is they're just fighting in the air. It's kind of similar to like when you had Itachi and Naruto when they jump up and they go to fight in the air. You know what I mean? So that's all it is.
Measurement of what he is actually...
So in theory, you could say since Deidara could deal with the attack in air, that maybe he could be able to deal with that also on the ground, right? If they're both also within the same parameters of fighting on ground, same variables, right? But to be fair, there's also distance to keep into consideration as well. So maybe Sasuke was at like just a good enough amount of distance for Deidara to avoid it right last minute too. That could also be it to where if the distance was more closer or medium, then he probably wouldn't have had time to do it, and then he would have just got tagged. So there's still a lot of stuff we don't really know, but it is impressive in some regard for Deidara. But I would say that's probably his best feat, really, in that fight. Other than that, it's just, what we normally always see with Deidara, flying around, avoiding, trying to blow shit up, blah, blah. And I'm going to be honest, if he didn't have the help from Tobi, I think that fight would have ended a lot more quicker. So...
capable of, as here he was clearly bloodlusted due to his egotism and hate for the Sharingan and Uchiha due to his devastating and embarrassing loss, to Itachi.
Yeah, it was also stated several times he was going to kill Sasuke or kill Orochimaru. That's what he wanted to do. He was looking for both of them, and he didn't care who he found first. He wanted to kill Sasuke because it's hated for Itachi, and he wanted to kill Orochimaru because of him betraying the organization. So that is true as well. And then obviously context within the fight that Jay's showing too.
Uchiha prior. Hence, Deidara is very relative to Heavy Sasuke as a combatant, nearly killing him as a result. So with all this being said, just how high does Deidara scale? Well, Sasuke, who as we already stated is very relative to Deidara, admits...
What's up?
One of the things that he didn't take into account, and I don't know if it was on purpose or whatever, but Sasuke was specifically not trying to kill Deidara.
Yeah. There was a moment where
he wanted the information on Itachi.
Yeah. He didn't. He missed his vitals, and he says that verbatim when he hit him with the Chidori from behind. What's it called, and so on and so forth. And then there is that too as well. Yeah. So to be fair, you could that could only apply at certain moments because in the beginning he does move at full speed and he just goes straight up to just slice him. Obito phases and then Deidara was able to jump just in time. So to say it's the whole fight, I don't know about all that, but throughout certain points, and yeah, that was definitely the case. So it
was definitely not true at the very beginning, but after that, he kind of different because Deidara did make that deal with him where if he beat him, he would tell him.
Yeah. Oh, what's it called? And then you could obviously, like, it's obvious as day. Like, you could definitely, say, Sasuke is at least going all out to be able to get Deidara to a level to where he's able to at least subdue him. Because at a certain point, like Ken said, he wasn't trying to kill him anymore. He was actually just trying to subdue him and then get intel. And he would probably be trying to do that by using the Sharingan and Genjutsuing him, right? So that's what Obito tried to do against Konan too. So yeah, but no, that is true that what Ken is saying.
After his battle with Deidara, that the only reason he was able to defeat Orochimaru is because Orochimaru was ill and weakened. Also note that he is implying that he wouldn't be able to defeat Orochimaru even post-absorption of Orochimaru. As a reason he said this was due to Kari not understanding how even this current version of Sasuke could achieve such a feat, with him barely surviving his encounter with Deidara. This further indicates that Sasuke is below a Prime Signing level, resulting in Deidara also being below a Prime Signing level, with him losing in his battle against Sasuke. Now to take a look at Sasori and his scaling, I think it is first pivotal to clear up some misconceptions of him due to his quote-unquote defeat to Chiyo and Sakura. Firstly, as stated by Chiyo, puppet users are vulnerable at close quarters, which is why they are puppet users in the first place, and the reason why Sasori is always in his armored Hiriko shell. So the claim that Sakura has relative and or superior combat speed is incorrect, as Sasori's max combat speed isn't in close quarters, but rather when controlling his puppets via chakra strings. Secondly, Sakura, although having the sufficient AP to damage Sasori's Hiriko shell, does not possess even relative combat speed to Sasori, as Chiyo was controlling her body via chakra strings essentially the entirety of the battle with Sasori, meaning her overall speed was amplified by Chiyo herself. Also note that this matchup was essentially the most conveniently set up matchup for Chiyo. Essentially the entirety of the battle with Sasori, meaning her overall speed was
I want to make sure I heard that right from him.
Herself. Key to damage Sasori's chakra string combat speed isn't in close quarters, but rather when controlling his puppets via chakra strings. Secondly, Sakura, although having the sufficient AP to damage Sasori's Hiriko shell, does not possess even relative combat speed to Sasori, as Chiyo was controlling her body via chakra strings essentially the entirety of the battle with Sasori, meaning her overall speed was amplified by Chiyo herself.
And that's just not true.
Note that this matchup was essentially the most convenient.
What do you disagree with?
Chiyo was not controlling Sakura's body throughout the majority of the fight. There's a portion of the fight in which she does, but the second the 10 puppets come out, she's no longer being controlled. And that's half the fight.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would have to go through that fight.
It's not too...
What's up?
It's not too far after the Hiriko shell actually gets destroyed that Chiyo brings up the I can't ever pronounce their name. The 10 puppets, basically.
Yeah. Because from my memory, I know what's it called? Sakura, I would have to go back. I could be wrong in this, but I'm pretty sure she was able to dodge all of the Hiriko's puppets, that turtle shell puppet, all that's attacks. But then eventually she gets subdued. and then the poison smoke is like coming through on her, and then she does like a kunai bomb, but she hurt herself in the process, and then like from there, that's when like
it's when the third Kazekage comes out.
Yeah,
and that's when Chio has to help out because the Iron Sands 2, it moves too unpredictably in order for her to deal with. So it's not like Sasori's like raw speed at that time was too much. It was just the sand was too unpredictable for her. And then once the third Kazekage gets taken down, the 10 Kazekage puppets come out, and then Sakura's doing the fight by herself, basically.
Got you, because once Sasori gets more serious, then it got to a point where Sakura wasn't able to evade all the attacks, where she would have been killed like right there and then. But that's when Lady Chio starts using her chakra strings, and then now she's able to deal with all the attacks and stuff, and then like she's going whatever, and she's controlling her body for a while, and then really after that, my memory goes out the window. So like again, I'll have to go through that whole fight. I will say this: Lady Chio did backpack that fight though. If it wasn't for her, Sakura would have been out of the fight. What's it called? And then Sasori also admits that he wasn't trying to kill them, and Lady Chio even reconfirms that in the end of the fight as well, that he was holding back, which it kind of makes sense because
that was like better than Sasori.
Yeah,
but realistically, I don't think Chio would have even gone like past Hiroko without Sakura. But I think Sakura within that fight did more than what people give her credit for, basically.
Yeah, if she did the 10 puppets, I could probably see it, but no, I get what you're saying. Like, at the end of the day, we have to give Sakura, no matter what, her AP, because that's always been Sakura and Tsunade's thing. Like, no matter what, it may sound crazy, but Tsunade or Sakura would hit harder than Sasuke or Naruto, except for Sage Mode. Yeah. I think Sage Mode Naruto, that you could argue would be over. And that's fine. Even if you wanted to still say they're over, like that's understandably so, because their chakra control is just so fucking efficient and precise. Like it's ridiculous how much AP they have. But even someone like Sasuke or Kakashi, they hit way more. It's just blatantly shown by feats. Like it's not even a competition. And remind you, like these are geniuses. We know Itachi when he was just like he wasn't even a Genin. He was able to like smash a big ass boulder with his chakra control, amping his fist to save his mom, who was a Jonin, remind you. So like everybody can use chakra control. Like that's blatantly a thing, whatever. Yet Sakura and Tsunade were just that good, but that's why their attacks were so fucking devastating, so destructive, whatever. Yada yada yada. Like bro, like we see Rock Lee having to activate the fourth gate, and then he takes a single step, and everything's being destroyed, whatever, blah blah. Then you have fucking Sakura and Tsunade just casually doing one-hit moves and replicating the same amount of fucking destruction effortlessly. You know what I mean? So, like, again, like, their AP is no fucking joke. So that, for anyone to sit there and be like, oh, Sakura didn't do that, or her AP doesn't surpass the puppets or whatever, I would disagree with that, and I would at least give her that. As for, like, the speed or evading or whatever, I'm perfectly fine if people want to just say, oh, Lady Chio did that, whatever. Well, I don't really care. But that's kind of where I'm at with the fight. But yeah, but it's interesting to analyze, because honestly, depending on how you analyze that entirety of the fight is most definitely going to determine how you're going to gauge the story overall. And then obviously in correspondence to all his narrative statements for scaling, whatever, blah, blah. So, and then you also have the anime, and you have the game as well into consideration when he fights Orochimaru too. So, you know, again, that's what you're basically working with. All I will say, though, we know for a fact Orochimaru is way over Sakura. And if Sasori can fight Orochimaru to some regard, obviously he would have to be above Sakura. Like, for anyone to say he's a Sakura victim, I do think that's dishonest. So, but anyways.
Neatly set up matchup for Chio and Sakura, as one, Chio admits Sasori is above herself, and that her superior experience along with Sakura's high AP would have to work in conjunction to possibly defeat Sasori, and two, Sakura conveniently had poison antidotes at hand in this battle, and if it weren't for this, Sasori would have quite easily defeated her and Chio. Hence the claim.
Yeah, so right now he's basically going over all the context and all like that, the conveniences for the plot, whatever, blah blah. Yada yada yada. There's a lot of context.
To these two is fallacious.
And that is true. That is true. There's a lot of fucking things of why that battle went the way it did. And if it wasn't for any of that, they would have both probably been fucking killed right away. So
He was clearly at a disadvantage from the beginning, as I have just proven. Finally, Sasori literally concedes in the end, which Chiyo even admits after Sasori's defeat, implying that even with all these advantages, Sasori was still the superior, even with Chiyo and Sakura working together.
I will say this, I could be wrong, but I do think there was one moment where Sasori was willing to kill both of them, and he actually got very serious. And the anime even emphasized it to where it's like when he sends all his 100 puppets and shit, and then she does her 10 puppets, and they're both like going fucking crazy. Like they're moving really fast with their hands, and it's like a really intense fight. And even Sakura's like, holy shit, like I can't even do anything. Like there's no room for me at all. You know, that's how intense the fight was and how crazy it was. So I do think at that moment, it was very serious and very competitive. But overall, like there is a point where Sasori is like, you know what, I'm not gonna kill her, whatever, and that was it. You know, so you could potentially argue Lady Chiyo was like at least relative, or maybe even equal in puppet, usage. You know, but again, you know, it really just depends how you analyze everything. So, and it's been a while since I've seen that fight. So,
one of the things you also have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
One of the things you also have to keep in mind with a Sasori fight is anyone who's not fighting in like a non-organic body, or it's like actually fighting directly.
Yeah.
The second they get touched at all, the fight's almost always over because of all of his weapons are coated in that poison.
Yeah, that's fucking insane. Like, and that's the problem with Sasori. It's not only how high he scales when it comes to fighting, but he literally fights like with pressure attacks. Like, imagine trying to deal with the Hiriko fucking weapons, 100 puppets, and black sand at the same fucking time. Like, I don't think anybody really could do that. Like, he was literally just doing one stage attacks throughout the fight. Like, he started with his Hiriko puppet, then he does the Kazekage, and then he does no. I can't remember. Was it Kazekage or the 100 puppets first? But either way, he takes turns with it.
Or the 100 puppets.
Yeah, he never just throws it all at once. And he could easily do that. You know what I mean? So, like, again, like, you know, imagine having to deal with all that. Like come on. Like, like, you would have to very, very outscale Sasori in order to deal with all that at the same time. Because that's a lot of fucking attacks. So, that's why Sasori is so dangerous, you know? And again, I will say this, even if you say Sasori scales to Lady Chiyo, like, let's say you really think that, but at least agree Sasori would still win because of what he has, right? That's not really an anti-feat either, because Lady Chiyo is very fucking powerful. She actually fought Hanzo the Salamander many times in war and never died or whatever and was alive. I mean, and we know all the correlation to Hanzo to the Sanning, whatever, blah, blah, you know? So Lady Chiyo is very fucking strong, and we even see her...
She could kill the White Fang.
Yeah. And she also was in the War Arc as an Edo, not even full power, and she was able to dodge a Rising Shuriken from fucking a KCM Shadow Clone. And sure, it's not the full KCM power, but a Shadow Clone literally can fucking low diff the second Mizukage. That, not Mizukage, this, Shizukage. That's a big deal. That's a dude that scales to Inoki. A fucking Shadow Clone of KCM Naruto can low diff Inoki or that dude. That's crazy. You know what I mean? So, like, the Shadow Clones are really fucking strong. And she was able to dodge the Rising Shuriken, and then there's a time skip to where her and Kimimaro are still standing there. And they were not sealed or subdued. Because the whole point of Naruto being there was to hit them once hard, and then they get sealed by the sealing core. Because Naruto doesn't have sealing jutsu. And the fact that they were still up, that means they were able to somehow deal with Naruto's clone, whether if they defeated it or if the clone just poofed, you know what I mean? We don't know. But either way, they were able to deal with it to some regard, right? So, again, like, Chiyo is no fucking joke, you know? So, I just kind of want to put that out there, but, you know. And the reason why it's relevant is because all the Kages, like the Onoki, whatever, blah, blah, regardless of how you may deem of them in correlation to the Sanning, they're at least bare minimum relative to the Sanning. At least. Whether if you think they're equal, below, above, whatever, at least relative. You know, because we see them when they fight us the 5 Kage against Madara, like they're having somewhat relativity, right? I do think the Sanning are over people like Inoki and, you know, and whatnot, blah, blah, except for A. Raikage is the only guy, but, you know, again, that's where I'm at. So, anyways.
As Sasori seeing his parents again, even in puppet form, most likely mentally nerfed him with the many manga panels we see depicting the memories Sasori had of his parents. So where does Sasori scale to? Well, as we know, Sasori defeated the third Kazekage in a tough battle as he iterated to Chiyo, and the third is described consistently as the strongest Kazekage and seemingly strongest Sand Shinobi to ever live. Chiyo.
Yeah, that's another thing too, and this is why it gets really one-sided when we're talking about Sasori and Deidara because of all the statements and the consistency. But not only does the data book describe that it was a very intense battle, so no, you can't just argue that, oh, maybe he was one shot or caught off guard, whatever, some bullshit. The data book gives some information about the battle, and then even in the manga and the anime, there's information as well verbatim. So there's tons of consistency. And then you have all the statements of the third Kazekage being the strongest no matter fucking what, and Sasori beat him, you know? So, meaning the third Kazekage is above Lady Chiyo, right? Because she would be the strongest, right? So it goes Sasori, third Kazekage, and then Lady Chiyo. So that's even more evidence for why Sasori would be above Lady Chiyo. But again, we at least just know bare minimum that he is stronger than Lady Chiyo. You know what I mean? You can maybe argue that they're, equal in speed or whatever, or puppery, or relative, whatever. Cool. That's the only contentious aspect of it. But we still know Sasori would beat her in the fight. That's all that matters. You know what I mean? So, but the reason why that's important is because, again, her correlation to Hanzo. That dude is fucking crazy strong. He fought all three Sannin and, and beat him. And then it's even eventually reinforced in the narrative that Jiraiya is over here shitting his pants he couldn't even fathom of pain being able to beat someone like that. And mind you, that's a future Jiraiya who's arguably would be stronger than the versions that fought Hanzo. So meaning he's still deemed Hanzo of a pretty fucking high potential threat or a big deal. Which meaning would correlate to all three of them, So, again, that's why when it comes to all that, it's just a lot of chain scaling, basically. And that's why it's just normally deemed as not really a fight at all. But
Chiyo herself implies this verbally and via body language with her clear shock when discovering that Sasori defeated the third Kazekage, meaning she is below the third Kazekage as well, with Chiyo in her prime being able to stalemate the mighty Hanzo on multiple occasions, as stated by herself, with Hanzo being the same man who spared all three Sannin in their younger years.
That's a question I'll ask you, though, real quick, Ken, since this is a very short video. Because it's blatantly shown that Jiraiya still respected and acknowledged Hanzo's power and blah, blah, you name it, whatever. What do you think of that at that point in time? Because there is some contentious value. Do you think Hanzo could still beat all three of them? Or he could at least be just above one? No. Because I'm going to be honest, if all three of them are using their next level form, like Sage Mode, the big 8-headed snake, and then the 100 heals, I don't know about Hanzo beating that, bro. You know what I mean? Base.
I think it's more one of those things that he has respect for how powerful Hanzo is in general.
Yeah.
And not necessarily that he thinks Hanzo's more powerful than he is at that point in time.
Gotcha.
Because, you would agree that Kasame's stronger than Deidara, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
There's, moments where, Kisame is, surprised, I can't remember exactly when, but there's a moment where Kisame is surprised that somebody was able to beat Deidara.
Yeah, he had high regard for Deidara. Yeah, no, I remember that. So, yeah.
So, just because, you're, amazed that, someone was defeated, it doesn't necessarily mean, you think they're above you, or even relative to you. It just means that you think there's such a high caliber of ninja that you can't imagine too many other ninjas being able to beat them.
Yeah, the reason why I was asking you that is because some people would say that would still reinforce the fact that Hanzo would be above all three Sannin at the same time, you know what I mean? And so on and so forth, or maybe at least just above one or whatever. And it's it gets you thinking because it's I could say bare minimum that he's at least perceived to be a threat, right, to them. At least a threat to where if a battle were to ensure it won't be a fucking a no diff battle, right? You know what I mean? It'll either be low diff, mid diff, or high diff. But that's what we don't know. You know what I mean? And whether if that would stand for one or all three, or if only for their base forms, you know what I mean? Again, there's just a lot of unknown, So, but yeah, I just thought it was.
My only problem with that is the fact that we know Orochimaru still could probably beat Sasori.
Yeah.
And Sasori, if Orochimaru's Jiraiya relative, then Sasori shouldn't be able to beat Jiraiya. And if Sasori's on this caliber that's greater than Hanzo was, then realistically he shouldn't be able to be beaten by Jiraiya or Orochimaru.
Yeah.
If Hanzo is as well.
Yeah, no. One thing that does at least support that idea of what the Sasori and Sasaning is because we see it in the game in the anime. Orochimaru in the anime and the game was toying with Sasori. Like he was just having fun. Like he was just enjoying the battle. Whatever. There was no seriousness. Whatever. Sasori was serious and he was trying to kill Orochimaru. But Orochimaru was just having fun. Like it's like him having a warm up, right? I mean, he didn't really care for the battle. He wasn't serious. He wasn't pressured. He wasn't like giving any reactions as he did to Pain or Itachi or anything like that. You know what I mean? So like, if you take the anime and the game into consideration, therefore you could at least put Sasori to be able to fight the Sannin, but he's not over the Sannin. You know what I mean? And it's still impressive because normally when Orochimaru fights somebody, he immediately just no-diffs them. Because that's in character. You know what I mean? Like he'll fucking no-diff them, whatever, and like show them their place. You know, or if he's ever having like an ego moment and he wants to test someone's caliber, then he'll enjoy playing with them, right? You know, I mean, that's where he'll hold back, he'll play whatever, blah, blah, and then he'll just, do whatever, right? So he does show that too. So with Sasori, what we at least have, bare minimum, is either, there's two things. One, he can at least fight Orochimaru to a certain regard, but if Orochimaru got really serious, then he'd be dead, right? Or two, Orochimaru was just, just having fun, whatever, toying, and Sasori doesn't even scale to a Sannin at all. Now, I'll say this, I would lean with option one more, and the only reason is because not only is he in the Akatsuki, but most importantly, like, if it was that easy and simple, again, Orochimaru, he's a dick, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't care about your feelings, he'll just completely put you in your face, and he's not like an Uchiha. He's not Sasuke. He's not any kid that he could, you know what I mean? Like, Sasori isn't a kid that he could try to manipulate or whatever, blah, blah. None of that is remotely involved. So, meaning, therefore, he just get to business, right? Like, when he was with Kakashi, when he was there and Kakashi said all that shit, he immediately got serious. He was like, bitch, you want to fucking try it? And then he made Kakashi envision his death, you know? So, like, in character and consistency-wise, Orochimaru would normally just put you in your place, and fight you, whatever, or just have some fun as well. But he would still make it apparent that, like, you're just not on his level. And that's what he always does. And it's shown in the game and in the anime. In the game, he fights Sasori, whatever, they do whatever, blah, blah. And then Sasori's like, oh, you talk all that shit, but yet you had a hard time fighting me. And then Orochimaru's like, bitch, like, please, like, I was barely even trying, whatever. The real person I care about is Pain, and then he tries to go at full speed at Pain, and then Pain no-diffs his bitch ass. You know what I mean? So, like, again, however you want to gauge it, bare minimum, all I'm getting at is he scales to the Sonic in some regard, but he's not above. And that's if you take the anime and the game. Now, the only thing you could advocate against that is you could be like, oh, maybe Sasori just got stronger, right? Because then it gets confusing, like, oh, all the statements or whatever, yada, yada, blah, blah. Like, because, again, people try to go the route of either Sasori being a Sonic killer, like where he could just kill all three at once or one-on-one, whatever. Or there's people that think he could fight the Sonic, but they're still stronger. Those are the two areas people always get at. So Sasori's an interesting character, man. It's very interesting. It really just depends. But again, we just have limited information. If I had to pick one, at least from analyzing everything overall, because the only thing we have in the anime and manga is that Sasori was planning to confront Orochimaru at the bridge with Deidara. So that would at least for sure establish that there would be a fight, you know what I mean? And that they thought they were at least capable of maybe having a chance to defeat Orochimaru. So meaning at least that should probably imply or establish some relativity, bare minimum, right? I'm not saying to be over, but at least relativity, you know what I mean? Or, with everything else and whatever your thought process is, then Sasori would have just killed him right there and then, but... Again, it's really, really interesting. Anyways, sorry we got off in the many directions, but it is something to get you guys thinking when it comes to Sasori scaling, because Sasori scaling can get very interesting in many ways, depending on what route you're taking and how you analyze him as a character. So
second Great Shinobi War. This indicates that Sasori is not only above a Prime Saiyan level, as even Prime Jiraiya couldn't fathom the idea of anyone defeating Hanzo one-on-one, but he is also above Hanzo, as again, Chio stalemated him in his prime. With her, he is also above Hanzo. Jiraiya couldn't fathom the idea of anyone defeating Hanzo.
Okay, no matter how powerful this family may be, there truly were no shinobi that didn't know the name of the previous, Hanzo the Great,
one-on-one, but he is also above Hanzo, as again, Chio stalemated him in his prime, with her admitting Sasori is the greatest puppet user ever, and is again below the third Kazekage, who Sasori beat. Hence, Sasori is actually quite powerful, being above a Prime Saiyan level, meaning he is above the likes of at least the base Prime Saiyan, Jiraiya, and arguably perhaps even above the
I don't think that was Prime Saiyan, by the way.
As he was relative to Prime Orochimaru during the Konoha Crush arc. What further
well, and I already called it out, but basically what Jay is getting at is he's going the chain scaling route and with the reinforcement argumentation. Well, basically saying Hanzo beat all three of them, right, in their base forms that we at least see. Because maybe around that time they didn't have their next form, right? Whatever. Well, to be fair, we know Jiraiya probably... Yeah, Jiraiya would have it because he's shown as a kid to get Stage 1. But either way, base form is bare minimum, right? He beats them, whatever. And then it gets to when he's in the Pain Village. And then his reaction, his verbatim statements, what he's saying, blah, blah. People will use that information and be like, therefore, it's still reinforced, meaning that Hanzo would still be above even the future Prime version of the Sonic, whatever, blah, blah. So Jay didn't say their next forms, but he said at least their base. So that's the route basically he's going with. Whether you agree or not with it, but yeah, that makes sense. At least for how people would normally rep Sasori to be above at least the Sonic in their base forms. But did you have anything more to say with that, Ken? Or cause I know you disagreed. But,
my only disagreement on this at this point in time is I don't think that was the Sonic at their prime.
Yeah.
I mean, it also needs to be taken the idea that, like I said before, because Jiraiya said, he can't imagine someone being able to beat Hanzo.
Yeah.
That means, Hanzo's, around, or even at his level. Again, I don't think that's necessarily so. Again, if it was, then Sasori would have been killed Orochimaru. Because we know Sasori hated Orochimaru.
Yeah.
He
wanted him dead.
Sakura and Chio would have been enough to beat that Orochimaru as well.
Yeah.
Is the fact that Orochimaru goes out of his way to have Kabuto serve as a double agent to surprise Sasori on Tenshu Bridge, where he would have had to have battled both, implying that Orochimaru certainly deems Sasori as a worthy opponent, and not some simple fodder he could have easily disposed of. So yeah, Sasori is actually a lot stronger than people realize.
Wait, what was the end? Hang on, I didn't hear that.
Out of his way arc. What further reinforces this scaling is the fact that Orochimaru goes out of his way to have Kabuto serve as a double agent to surprise Sasori on Tenshu Bridge, where he would have had to have battled both, implying that Orochimaru certainly deems Sasori as a worthy opponent, and not some simple fodder he could have easily disposed of. So yeah, Sasori is actually a lot stronger than people realize.
Okay. So he's saying that the fact that he was using Kabuto to play the spy role, therefore he acknowledged the power, whatever, blah blah. Now, to be fair, you could argue and say that was just more of him trying to get intel on the Akatsuki or what they're doing, and just basically to have a strategic mindset basically, and to keep, because the thing about Orochimaru is he's always hiding. He's hiding from villages, from Konoha, from the Akatsuki. That's why he has all these fucking hideouts. You know what I mean? So to be fair, you could go that route and say it has really nothing to do with him considering Sasori a threat, but again, it's we don't know everything for certain though. Now, if you take the game or the anime into consideration, then that's where things could be a lot more simplified. But
another thing to keep in mind is when Orochimaru had sent in Kabuto as a spy against Sasori had already done the opposite with Kabuto to Orochimaru. So it's more than likely that Orochimaru was just using the chips that are already in place for him.
Yeah, they were both trying to fucking... That was the funny part. It's Orochimaru does the thing, Sasori's nah, I didn't fall for that shit, bro. And then he does it to a Kabuto, and then Orochimaru realizes and then reverses it, and then does it, you know what I mean? And Sasori didn't know. So, Orochimaru actually, won the chess match, basically, is what I'm getting at. But, yeah, they were both just trying to get intel and, gauge each other, the whole fucking time, and then Orochimaru came on top. But, so again, it's interesting, but either way, it is what it is. What we at least know for sure, objectively, is they were gonna fight, and things would have just been settled right there and then, because Sasori and Deidara were the ones in charge of disposing of Orochimaru. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know why they didn't just send Obito, Pain, or Itachi, because they know they were blatantly above and could easily kill Orochimaru. You know what I mean? Why even, like, remotely give Orochimaru even a chance? You know what I mean? But, you know, whatever. I don't know. Because, to be fair, you could argue that... You could argue that in favor for Sasori and Deidara as well. Not really Deidara, but at least for Sasori, the fact that the leader, Pain, thought, and Obito had no objections either, that Sasori and Deidara would be enough to take down Orochimaru. That does put them in a really good spotlight. Not necessarily for Deidara, because we already seen where he's at scaling-wise, but for at least Sasori, because he's more in the arbitrary or vague compartment of things. But that is at least something you could use if you're a Sasori fan. But
despite his loss to Sakura and Shio, and despite the slander on his name as a result of that loss. So with all that being said, who would win? Well, as many of you have already probably deciphered, Sasori scales higher than Deidara, being safely above Prime Saiyan level, while conversely, Deidara is arbitrarily below Prime Saiyan level, losing to someone who is also self-admittedly below Prime Saiyan level as well. Logically, this tracks, as Deidara admits himself
keep saying Saiyan
to Sasori when Naruto goes after.
Because he has Sasori above Sannin level, their base forms, but he's saying Deidara...
He's not saying Sannin, though.
Oh, I thought that's what I heard. He said Sannin level.
He's saying Salin.
Oh, well, I don't know. Could just be a pronunciation thing, but yeah, but that's all he's getting at, though, for like the sake of the argument. And he's just saying Deidara is not, which that is blatantly, objectively the case. Sasuke and Deidara are blatantly emphasized should be not like way below the Sonic, you know. What's it called? While Sasori is like the only one you could even remotely argue possibility-wise, or at least bare minimum get him within that territory in some regard. You know what I mean? But regardless, whether if you think he's above or can at least fight, either way, it's just way more dominant than Deidara, you know? So, but that's basically what he's getting at.
I was just trying to figure out if there was something I was missing with, like, because I know he can say the word Sannin.
Yeah.
I've heard him say it. So I was trying to figure out if it was, like, some sort of, like, context I was missing with, like, him saying, like, Salin or something.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
After him, and to quickly debunk the claim that Deidara only says this to make Kakashi fight Sasori instead of going after him, Deidara is one of the most egotistical and narcissistic shinobi in the entire Naruto-verse, literally being willing to kill himself rather than taste defeat, as we saw in the Sasuke battle. Hence, it is far more likely that Deidara is genuinely stating that Sasori is above himself, as again, he'd rather die than admit inferiority to anyone wanting his art, quote-unquote, to be the strongest there is. Now, to get into when...
that's why he still wanted to try to hunt down and kill Orochimaru. Like, this delusional bitch really thought he could kill Orochimaru. Like, that's how, like, arrogant he is. And prideful.
For both characters, Sasori has multiple, being the...
So the fact that he got serious and humble for once, which is out of character... And for him to acknowledge Sasori's power, you know what I mean? Whatever. Like, again, that's like, he never does that. Even for people that he knows are above him. You know what I mean? Because the people that he knows that are above him, he would still think he could have any chance remotely to kill them or just want to still fight them. You know what I mean? So, again, like, I do agree with Jay, and me and Ken were advocating this as well. That gives more credibility for that statement to be very transparent and have integrity in it, you know?
Scaling, including, of course, his poison, the Iron Sand of the Third Kazekage, and possibly death by his 100 Puppet Jutsu, of course. He also, of course, could use any of these simultaneously.
Oh, another thing that could have Sasori below the Sannin, or at least, like, relative to them in some regard, at least, but he would still lose at the end of the day once they got serious. Again, this is in the game as well. It's the same game, remind you, too. In the game, he fights Orochimaru, but Orochimaru wasn't even trying, and then just, like, said, nah, bitch, I don't care about you. And then also, Sasori lost to Konan. And we know Konan got bitched by base Jiraiya. You know what I mean? So, if you connect all those dots, then there you go. So, again, that's a way if you want to advocate against Sasori, or if you don't think he's over the Sannin, or at least scales just in some relative regard, right? You know what I mean? But the Sannin are still over, you know? So, you have that, too. Now, what I will always say for Konan, because I do feel like a lot of people take that out of proportion, is, to be fair, that is her master and that was her sensei. So it's not like she's bloodlusted or she's, you know what I mean, whatever, blah, blah. You could clearly basically give her the benefit of the doubt, and that's why she was caught lacking or whatever. And there's that too. You know what I mean? Now, to be fair, you could argue the same for Jiraiya. You know, it's a student, whatever. He's not trying to kill. And it makes sense because he instead of killing her, he just does the oil and stops her from using her paper shit, you know? But what I'm getting at is people try to say that, he immediately oiled her and then now she can't fight, so therefore he just no-diff Conan whatever and Conan's ass. Like, I feel like there's more context to it and people just really overlook that, you know? Because, like, he was literally the counter for Conan. Nobody else has oil release like that, you know what I mean? So if you don't have oil, she could just do all her paper shit. Like why do you think Obito had to deal with the paper bullshit? He didn't fucking have oil, you know what I mean? Jiraiya literally is the counter for that. You know what I mean? That's his student. He knows how to fight her, you know? So, again, like, you know, there's all that too. So, either way, it really just boils down to your perception of things, how you look at things, whatever. And depending on what you do from that, then you go from there, right? But if I'm trying to be as transparent or as fair as possible, I do think Conan is a lot more stronger than people give her credit for. Because the fact that she could fight Sasori and beat him and not even kill him, I think that's very impressive. And then most importantly, she has some impressive showings against Obito too. Sure, you know what I mean? I know there's a conduit, whatever, blah, yada, 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 but she was still able to land a blow on him, you know? So, anyways.
With him possibly coating Iron Sand with poison or spewing poison gas along with his puppets. With him also being the physically superior of the two shinobi in this battle as indicated by my scaling, he would have multiple methods of victory that would be plausible. Now as for Deidara, what mostly makes victory for him possible is his high AP and high radius of effect attacks, such as his C3, C4, and of course C0. However, due to his inferior scaling and most likely inferior combat speed, at least when Sasori is actually controlling his puppets, his margin for error in comparison to Sasori would be much smaller. In fact, in most scenarios in which Deidara possibly could win, it would most likely result in his own death as well, similar to the Sasuke battle, as again, he has the inferior speed.
Yeah, I agree with what the conclusion he's at least getting at. So, the thing with Deidara is, like, I think Sasori just scales way more above to where, like, Deidara's not going to really have a chance to do anything for it, like how he typically battles. He's just going to get killed right away, you know, or one hit. That's all it takes. One. You know what I mean? And Deidara's fucked. And he got tagged many times by Sasuke. You know what I mean? So, like, even if you put them in a similar regard or similar scaling, that's still beneficial for Sasori. Why? Because what the fuck is Deidara going to do against all the puppet attacks, 100 puppets, and black sand? What the fuck does he do, bro? Like, if the man could even handle, like, all the straightforward or double or singular attacks from Sasuke, you think he's handling that many attacks? No, he's gonna get tagged. He's going to get tagged. Like, so no matter what, like, even if you downscale Sasori to Deidara's level, he still loses because of just what they can do, whatever, blah, blah. And even if, like, fucking, you know what I mean? And then, like, and if you have Sasori in the correct scaling, then he just fucking straight up kills him right away. It'd just be like a low diff battle or a no diff. Like, that's the fucking problem. Like, the only way Deidara could pull it off, and this is a maybe, is if Deidara does his final explosion move. You know what I mean? And for somehow, some way that was allowed. But I'm going to be honest with you, the black iron sand is very durable. That is very, very tanky. Very tanky. If Gaara could fucking deal with, you know, certain levels of explosion and there's not even a fucking dent, you know, like, you could potentially argue that he could deal with Deidara's explosion. Like, Manda, the snake, that was able to tank the explosion. And it didn't die right away. It was still alive for a moment. It does die eventually, but the fact that it didn't get incinegrated or shred to pieces, it just took the blunt of the explosion, you know? So, in theory, if Sasori just does a big ball of iron sand around him, you could argue, and he puts all his chakra into it, right? You know what I mean? And condenses it and makes it harden. In theory, he could just tank that suicide explosion as well. The only thing that could kill Sasori is if he does his Hax explosion, which is the microscopic shit. And Sasori doesn't have a way to see, like, that's like, you know, some weird shit like what the Sharingan could do. So that could be a
would that even work on Sasori?
So here, because I think when it came to, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, when it came to that ability, it boiled down to you to where when you breathe
it in.
Yeah, exactly. You breathe it in, and then and then it blows you up from the inside. It's like microscopic explosions or whatever. So you just incinerate. But
like it didn't just because me and Loki talked about.
But
this
Sasori doesn't
one time
breathe.
a while ago.
He doesn't breathe though.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like I don't like. That's what I'm saying. So like I don't even think like the microscopic explosions could be able to travel like through or get. Basically, the way what we're saying for Deidara's thing is it only works if you're a vacuum, right? You're a vacuum if you breathe and have oxygen, and basically is what we're getting at. But if you don't breathe, then you can't vacuum the microscopic explosions into your body. So if that doesn't go into your body, then he doesn't die. He would just, you know what I mean? All he has to do is just close his fucking mouth. That's what we're getting at. And he wouldn't die. He wouldn't.
So they didn't destroy those trees.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it only incinerated the birds. Yeah, it didn't do anything to trees and shit. So that's what I'm saying. So like, it does require you to breathe it in and consume. You know. So like again, that was like the only reasonably way for maybe him, but I don't even think that would happen because Sasori is not an actual functioning body. The only part in his body that is still human is the core. That's where his heart is. Other than that, he doesn't have lungs. He doesn't have anything else. Everything's just all puppet. He only has his heart. So, which is weird because
another
like,
thing that
how the fuck does he think? You know what I mean? Like, or how does he have like the same functions as a brain and shit? But hey, that's fiction for you, and I guess that's just how puppets can work, right? You know, but you know, yeah.
Well, the real question is how did he get that core into the puppet?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so yeah, Kishimoto has a lot of explaining to do with that when it comes to the science of things. But it's fiction at the end of the day. But either way, so that's all me and Ken are getting at. So honestly, I don't even think that would work. So no matter what the fuck Deidara has at his disposal, even if he is able to pull it off, there's not enough substantiation or evidence to where that would be most definitely a win con. That's the problem. That's all I'm getting at. And me and Ken will be the first ones to admit if something is a win con if it could land, right? Like for instance, like if Sasuke landed a fucking Chidori, in Naruto's heart, then yeah, Naruto's probably dead, right? Because that's where the fucking chakra connects to where it allows him to heal, whatever, blah blah yada yada, right? You know, so like, but if it's not hitting the heart, then no, he's not gonna die. You know, so yeah, there's just really nothing Deidara can do. I don't see it. Now, I will say this: maybe we're tripping and we're wrong. And if I go back to the fight, maybe it doesn't work that way. But I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So, and like Ken said,
yeah, the way
it was only the animals.
The way it's described to work.
It was only the animals dying. It was like the fucking lizards and birds.
Bloodstream.
Wait, what were you saying? You cut out.
The way it's described is when you inhale it, it gets into the bloodstream and it destroys you on a cellular level.
Yeah, okay. That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure, like that's what I remember. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what it is. And I remember specifically when the anime was focusing on shit, it was showing all the birds and lizards and shit. They were all just dying, but everything else was fine. The grass, trees, everything. You know. So.
In high AP, high area of effect attacks.
What's up?
Another thing I want to give to Sasori that a lot of people tend to forget or not give to him is the fact that he can puppeteer almost anything. Yeah. Like, let's say Deidara were to throw like one of those like huge like birds or like try and use like insect bombs.
He could control. He could control the clay shit.
Sasori could take control of them.
Yeah, he can. He's able to do that with human bodies, so he could do that with like the clay things that he does. Shit, he could land that on Deidara, and Deidara can't move. And he's fast as shit. You know what I mean? His body is very fast, and his puppery, like his chakra strings, that correlates to his physical stats. Like, it's very fucking fast. So, like, yeah, like that's absolutely a win con because then he can just control Deidara's body and make Deidara kill himself if he wanted to. You know? So, like, again, like, or he could just make Deidara not be able to move, and then he gets hit by the fucking black sand or whatever, blah blah. You know? So, like, Sasori actually has tons of win cons that Deidara wouldn't even be able to do anything about. So
that would probably hit him as well if he were to use them. Hence, in the end, Sasori would win more times than not, with low to possibly mid difficulty, depending on the exact parameters of his battle with Deidara, and would win 7 to 8 out of 10 times with the superior scaling he has.
I'd say low diff or no diff. That's what I'd say. What's it called? I don't agree with mid diff. Like mid diff or high diff is kind of what you were getting with the Sasuke fight. I don't see that happening at all. I really don't.
And the more numerous methods of victory he has as well. And there you guys have it. That is the video.
But to be fair, Jay was just being more generous because he already knows with this video there's probably going to be a lot of data retards being fucking butthurt. So
this video would be good to do.
I say go
Sasori
all in.
specifically
Yeah.
has very misunderstood and misrepresented scaling, despite him being
like that attack right there, bro. And that's not even all his attacks. That's just one. Like imagine that, and along with all the other shit he can do with that fucking shell and the 100 puppets charging at you and the black sand, Deidara's not dealing with all that. I don't want to hear it.
Shinobi. Please feel free
He would
to
have
leave
to
any
drop
thoughts
like his really
or
big
disagreements in
explosion
the comment section.
to like deal with all those attacks. And you think he's gonna be fast enough to do that? And even if he is, that's not stopping the black sand. Like that's not going anywhere, you know. So
below, or join my
just
Discord
prolonging the
and discuss it
inevitable.
with me there with the link to my.
But the video's done. I liked the video. I thought it was a good video. Definitely passed for me. Overall conclusion thoughts. What do you think, though, Ken?
Yeah, I'll give it a pass. Why not?
Okay. All right. So Ken says pass as well. But yeah, no, it was a good video. At the end of the day, me and Ken do absolutely disagree with the conclusion. The only like potential disagreements. What's it called? For me, I can't even agree to disagree because this would really require me to do my homework. But because Sasori is just a really interesting and weird character. Deidara is the only straightforward thing about it. But as for Ken, his disagreements are mainly primarily taking place between like where Sasori actually scales at, especially in correspondence to the Sonic. Because that's where things get.
I don't
really
think it makes too much sense to have him above the Sonic. Like if you say he's relative, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it makes sense story wise to say he's like above him.
Gotcha. No, and I get that. Yeah, no, you'd be surprised. There's actually a lot of people that agree with that too. They don't think he's above the Sonic. They either think he's relative or they just think he doesn't scale at all. So, what's it called? But there's a percentage of people that have him way over, and then there's the other percentage that just don't. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Like Sasori is really interesting because it's always a hit and miss with him. It's the only weird thing is when people be saying he fucking loses to like Kakuzu or Deidara and shit, and that's where it's like, whoa, like what the fuck, you know, like like what are we on about, you know? So yeah, because yeah. Anyways, but that'll basically be it for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe for more content, subscribe to you guys on the channel, and if you want more reactions like this, definitely make your comments down below what you guys want, whatever. I will typically try to get as many daily reactions as possible for Naruto, and just obviously be at my own choosing or what I think is really cool. But if you guys ever have your own preferences, feel free to say whatever, and I'll do it when I can. And yeah, as always, and if you guys ever want Ken in particular, or Shinobi, or Jay, whoever it is, it just can't be like anyone like big, like 6 or whatever, because I don't want to do any collabs with anybody until I've grown more. But if it's anyone like Jay or Shinobi or Ken, people that I just know and I'm more comfortable with, and we know we're just not in it for like that bullshit, you know, or business or any of that crap, you know, then that I'm cool with. So if you guys ever want more of those videos, because I know you guys have commented back then for at least Jay, and there has been some times for Ken as well. Also, let me know and put some recommendations. Either reach out to Ken or reach out to me, comment, whatever. I don't care. But as always, guys, Batman out. Peace.